Hi, I'm Erin Palmer, Team Rayceen Productions co-host and moderator.
And I'm Kaecy, Team Rayceen Productions co-host and moderator.
Joining us is Lauren Taylor. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for having me.
Great stuff. Welcome, Lauren. Before we talk about your new book, please tell the viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Lauren Taylor. My pronouns are she or they. I have been working to end gender-based violence since 1978 when I was co-founder of I'm in Washington, D.C. I was co-founder of DC's first shelter for abused women and their children. In the 80s, I took a self-defense class and I found it life-changing, and that's when I found my passion and my work, and I've been teaching self-defense ever since then.
Incredible. Tell us about your book, including what inspired you to write it.
So the book, which I co-authored with Nadia Telsey, is called Get Empowered, A Practical Guide to Thrive, Heal, and Embrace Your Confidence in a Sexist World. So just a couple things about the inspiration. One is most people think of self-defense as kicking and hitting, but the kind of self-defense that Nadia and I teach really focuses on there is some kicking and hitting, but I would say at least half or maybe 2/3 of what we teach is verbal skills, assertiveness, boundary setting, de-escalation, prevention, awareness, getting your heart in it, feeling like you're worth defending, all of those kinds of things. If you go and learn how to kick and hit, but you don't have any of those other things, you're not going to be in such good shape, especially for the everyday kind of violations that we experience as women and LGBTQIA plus people. And being able to interrupt those relatively early on when they're relatively low key can stop things from getting worse. So we really prioritize all of that. The reason that we wrote the book is that there's only so many people in the United States who do what we do, and we can only reach a limited number of people because of that. And so we wanted to reach more people than all of us combined could ever reach in our classes, and give people a chance to really do a deep dive into the mental and emotional work of becoming someone who feels ready and willing to stand up for themselves and be assertive and hit somebody if they absolutely need to.
Great. Lauren, please tell us what most do you want your readers to learn from the book, and what feedback have you received thus far?
Well, I think I kind of touched onto what we most want folks to get out of the book. Particularly, so people who are targeted for gender-based violence is women and LGBTQIA plus people. Women in particular, and anybody socialized female, anybody raised female, are taught that being nice and compliant and likable and things like that are priorities. And that often means that we put ourselves last, or that we feel like we're not worth standing up for, or we're not worth asking for what we want. And so those are the kinds of things that we hope when people read the book and do the exercises in the book, which I lost count, but I'm pretty sure there's 104 exercises in the book, that when people read the book and do the exercises in the book, they will come away with those kinds of things, like I am worth defending, and sometimes I have to put myself first. It's okay to say no. It's okay to ask for what I want. Those kinds of takeaways. We see them in our classes all the time, and I think people can also do it working with the book. And you asked me a second question too.
What feedback?
What kind of feedback are we getting? Yes. So the feedback is amazing, and it's really interesting because it's also kind of generational. The book is when you write a book, they make you really narrow down who your audience is. You can't just say, oh, it's for all women and LGBTQIA plus people. That's too big of an audience. So we said the book would be primarily for people between 18 and 35, because those are the people who are most at risk for harassment, abuse, and assault, and who in some ways might be struggling most with identity, so to need these skills. But what we're finding is that we're getting incredible feedback also from those people's parents, right? Like people in their 50s and 60s and even 70s are saying to us how powerful and life-changing it is for them. And they're also buying it, all the older people are all buying it for their college age kids or grandkids, because they know, again, how high risk you are when you're in that age group. So people are really telling us exactly what I hope to hear, which is that it's life-changing, and that, you know, they've been waiting for this book all their lives. And another thing that a lot of people have said to me, and it's a little weird that a lot of people are saying the same thing to me, but in another way, it makes perfect sense. A lot of people are saying, I wish I had this book when I was 15.
Lauren, you've touched on something interesting, which is the difference in how self-defense was conceptualized decades ago. And I'm wondering what you think people should know about self-defense in general, and if you can talk a little bit more about how you took an old-fashioned philosophy and modified it to be specific to women and the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah, so it is a binary that still exists, that most people, when they think of self-defense, they think of kicking and hitting, and they think that they need to go to a martial arts school to learn that. And nothing against martial arts. I did 20 years of Taekwondo myself. But that's not going to help you in the day-to-day kind of situations that women and LGBTQIA plus people experience, or even people of color when they're targeted for racism, or disabled people. So day-to-day kinds of things like microaggressions. I'm sorry, I lost myself a little bit there, but there are a bunch of really big differences. One is that we focus on the kinds of harassment, abuse, and assault women and queer people face. We understand trauma, and we know that there are survivors of harassment, abuse, and assault in every classroom, and we know how to make that as healing and safe a space as possible. We don't just do the kinds of skills you need for a physical attack, because we all of us here know that the day-to-day stuff, the street harassment, the misgendering, everything that people would call a microaggression, that number one, those things build up and they really hurt us. And number two, they are often the precursors to the more violent stuff. So for a lot of reasons, we tend to dwell in how to deal with those lower key, potentially less threatening things so that we can stop them before they get worse. And that's not something you'll ever find in a traditional self-defense class, which again is all about the kicking and hitting. Another thing in traditional self-defense classes is that they often are, they kind of fear monger. They tell you the worst thing that might happen to you to freak you out, to get you to get you invested in it. But we're about creating community and connection, especially because we know that there are survivors in every room, and that connection is key to healing from trauma.
Great. Thank you. You also talk about racism and self-defense. Can you tell us a little bit more about that connection?
Well, of course, all systems of oppression are connected, right?
Mhm.
We're talking about white supremacy, capitalism, ableism, xenophobia, etc. And so we talk about those things and how they relate throughout the book. But there are two particular places where we delve more deeply into racism. One of them is that Black men, and I'm talking about the United States, Black men in this country um, are are portrayed as rapists. And the same kind of thing that happened to Emmett Till, where he was murdered for allegedly looking at or smiling at a white woman, which she recanted that, so it wasn't actually true. But that kind of stuff happens every day. Um, uh, we think about Christian Cooper in the man who was birding in Central Park, and all of a sudden this white woman is calling the police on him and saying that he's threatening her, which wasn't true. Um, so those kinds of things happen every day in this country, unfortunately. And Black women are also thought of as hypersexual. And this is a legacy of slavery when it was fine to rape a Black woman because she wasn't a person, she was property. And so there is a legacy of that where Black women are seen of as hypersexual. And then when something happens to them, when they're sexually assaulted or something else, it's not taken as seriously as if it had happened to a white woman. And Black women, in particular, Black and Latina women, are more likely to be criminally punished for defending themselves. So, if somebody tried to rape me and I fought them off, the chances that I, as a white woman, would end up in prison are very low, but it's not that way for Black and Latina women who resist. The other thing that was a lot, but there's one more thing, which is how white women in this country, and to some extent all women, but primarily white women, are taught to be afraid of Black and brown men. So when culturally, socially, when you look at the media, et cetera, we're told that we need to be scared of Black and brown men, particularly Black and brown men who are strangers. And so then you get the thing of like white women crossing the street or clutching their purse closer to them, et cetera. But the truth is that whatever race you are, and race is a construct, but whatever race you are, if you're going to be sexually assaulted, it is most likely by someone of the same race. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because most sexual assault, depending on which study you read, it's between 75% and 90% of sexual assault in this country is by someone that you know. And so that makes a lot of sense because we live in such a segregated society that the people we know are more likely to be the same race as us. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that this gets complicated for the increasing number of people in this country who are multiracial. But talking in broad strokes, I want the students of my organization, Defend Yourself, and the readers of the book, the readers of Get Empowered, to know that they are not as in peril, particularly the white readers, not as in peril by Black and brown men as they think they are. Now, in the studies about this, Black women also found Black men more threatening than white men. So that's a tragedy of internalized racism. But I'm mostly talking to the white women who are in a position to sort of carry out that racism and ask them to investigate it internally and see if they can make some change.
Lauren, you're talking about such important issues and looking at them with a different and layered lens. It's very good work. Can you tell our viewers how they can get a copy of your book and if you have any upcoming author events?
Thank you for asking. So again, it's called Get Empowered, a practical guide to thrive, heal, and embrace your confidence in a sexist world. And the easiest place to get it is right up on the screen under the picture of the book. It's the website getempoweredbook.com, getempoweredbook.com. You can find lots of resources on there. You can find how to find a self-defense class. We also had a chapter that didn't fit in the book, so we're giving that away for free on the website. So go learn something on the website. And the two events that I have coming up, one is October 26th. That's a Thursday, October 26th. At the bookstore Women and Children First in Chicago. And then November 10th at the bookstore Coffee House Red Emma's in Baltimore. So I hope you will join me, and if that was too much information too quick, you can find it all on the getempoweredbook.com website.
Great. And viewers, you can also find the links to everything that Lauren has shared on the page.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful being here, and I really appreciate you asking.
Thank you. To those watching, please follow Team Rayceen on social media and subscribe to the Team Rayceen YouTube channel.
And viewers, thank you ever so much for watching.